The following program is a podcast1.com production.
Your healthy radio addiction starts now.
Power to the people!
The Laura Ingraham Show.
Oh, look at those eyes, I'm helpless. Down for the down and I'm helpless.
It happens almost every winter. So a bomb cyclone, you've inevitably seen that on social media and you've gone, oh no, what's happening? This storm. And it is a very powerful storm.
Big winds are expected. We're talking 50, maybe 70 mile per hour winds with snow falling as well.
What do we expect in the coming days? What is this bomb cyclone thing?
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Skylar.
My sister. Thank you for all your...
You are listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. Can you believe that in the wintertime we get snow and ice?
Ice?
And it can be cold. Lots of wind. Sometimes we could even get a lot of snow. We're helpless. I love that song from Hamilton. It's so great. My kids sing that. They sang that all. We sang. For some reason, we play Hamilton every time we go on a trip somewhere. They love Hamilton. Nico belts it out. Maria belts it out. They love that song. Helpless. Well, we're helpless now. How is it that we have this hyperbolic reporting on, as the reporter says, this happens every winter? Oh, we're going to have ice from Maine all the way down to the mid-Atlantic. It's called winter. 855-40-LAURA. You want to know what really gets me, though, is when they bring out the foodstuffs. It's like in the summertime when they crack the egg on the hood of the car or on the pavement.
And it sizzles.
Look! The egg is cooking! It's summertime! It's hot! And in the wintertime, they take the egg to, well, a new low.
We want to give you an idea of just how cold it is outside. This is a hard-boiled egg. We left it out overnight, and take a listen and take a look at this. You can use it almost as a hammer. That's just how cold it is outside.
No. We need to hammer your head because apparently there ain't nothing inside. We have to crack it open to see what's in there. They're actually using an egg as a hammer.
You could use it almost as a hammer. This should be one of those commercials where it cuts through.
And that's not all. If you buy 3 ShamWows, you get... This is just...
The egg hammer.
Yeah, the egg hammer. Available when you buy 4. Yes, you get an extra set of Ginsu knives, but that's not all. Order. Well, but the reporting wasn't all that much over the top, was it, James?
Take a look at this outdoor deck right here behind me. You can see it's completely covered in icicles. And if that's not enough to show you just how cold it is, look at this. This is a big block of ice. It was once snow. Crazy, right?
Wait a second. You're kidding me. When it gets warmer and then the snow begins to melt, and then when the temperature goes back up, it turns to ice. Wow. You're listening to your healthy and not wussified radio addiction. You know what I'm waiting for, though? I love this. Talk about the annual event. Trying to get a gallon of milk in any grocery store in D.C. No. And for some reason, apparently, people have more bowel movements during a blizzard than at any other time because they have to buy every what do you call it?
Toilet paper. Not roll. No. Sheet.
Cottonelle, Charmin, even the store brand.
Well, you know what it is?
They're all gone.
Because they think, what if I'm shut in the house for a number of days?
I thought you were going to say something else.
Well, what if I'm in the house?
I was like, where are you going there, Raymond?
And I can't get out. They don't want to have to use newspapers.
You know something? This is what I want to hear from my friends in Iowa, Minnesota, up in North Dakota. I want to hear from my friends in Idaho, Colorado. This is the full-on wussification of America. Or maybe it's just a desperate attempt to get ratings for some of these
probably
newscasts. But the local news is actually doing pretty well, I think. Fox #1, so we went up. We
Yeah, but you're not doing weather reports.
Well, I could be tonight.
Yeah, maybe tonight's the night.
I'm going to get Janice Dean, the weather machine, and to show me how to do that green screen and point at the right states without getting all reversed up on it. Like, I'm going to do that. I want to do my own version of the weather report.
The Ingraham angle goes into the bomb cyclone with you.
We're here up in a weather plane, hovering above the bomb cyclone. And the bomb snow cyclone, look down there. Wait, the winds are so strong, Rosie O'Donnell just took off.
Why have I never heard of a bomb cyclone before
let me just
now?
say what life.
You grew up in the north.
You're from the south, so you're
am.
not used to this. But let me just say this. In Connecticut growing up, we always had feet of snow on the ground. Okay, it wasn't the dusting of snow. This was snow all the time. We didn't have phrases like Snowmageddon. We didn't have a run on the grocery store. You know, sometimes we'd lose power for a week. Guess what? We get sleeping bags, a bunch of blankets, and have wood for the fireplace. That's what we did. And you know what? We had a lot of fun. We built snow forts and went sledding down the front lawn, sometimes into traffic. But you know, we had fun. Now we turn it into a national emergency. And look, the elderly and the homeless, pets. Do you see that thing where some redneck left a pet out on the front porch down there in Kentucky? Came back and it was ice petzel. It wasn't a popsicle; it was a petsicle. Then the poor dog frozen solid.
Froze to death.
Yeah, frozen solid. These are idiots who leave their pets outside. Petsicle. So that's what. So yes, if you're in the deep south, yeah, it's unusual. You'll survive. You know what? I was reminded. Jim DeMent tweeted this out earlier today. You want to know what was tough? January 3rd, today's date, 1777. One of the most consequential battles of the Revolutionary War took place. And this is when General Washington and his soldiers marched from Trenton north and attacked British forces that were south of town. And his victory bolstered America's morale, which was really low then, was bad. And ultimately gave the American troops the optimism and confidence they needed to keep going. This was a really low point in the war. And it's amazing. You know, he escaped one enemy, as the Mount Vernon website reminds us, to attack another enemy at Princeton. Despite their success in repulsing several frontal attacks at the Battle of Assunpink Creek, Battle of the Second Trenton, on January 2nd, 1777, General George Washington and his senior officers were filled with a sense of dread. General Cornwallis's army of 8,000 veteran soldiers were poised to deliver a punishing blow the following morning. The fact that the British had discovered a ford that led to the vulnerable American right flank made the American position on Assunpink Creek near Trenton all the more dangerous. Rather than risk defeat in Trenton, Washington, in collaboration with his senior officers, agreed upon a bold and dangerous plan. That very night, the Continental Army would quietly leave its positions along the creek and then march east, then north toward Princeton. With deceptive campfires still burning along the creek, Washington's intrepid soldiers began their 18-mile march through the dark and bitterly cold night. By stealing a march on Cornwallis, General Washington retained the all-important initiative and avoided any movement that smacked of retreat. Washington's successful night march, 18 miles in the bitter cold, January 2nd and January 3rd, is remembered as one of the great flank marches in American history. You want to know what hard is? That's hard. How many of these pretty girl, pretty boy type meteorologists could hack the 18-mile march in bitter cold? They didn't have Gore-Tex brand name ski parkas with their perfectly, their thermal underwear that's all high-tech gear with the perfect waterproof, gloves that they had. They didn't have any of that. They didn't have ski caps of the type we have. They didn't have any. They had leather boots. They didn't have the little girly boots with the lambskin, high, lambskin that they have today with the cute little colorful
no feet
laces.
Warmer, no little
they didn't
feet
have the
warmer
feet
implants.
warmers, those little packets that you think about. 18 miles they marched in the bitter cold to surprise General Cornwallis. And we complain? Yeah, I say what I say to my kids. Suck it up, Buttercup. I am tired of this wussification of America. And it's encouraging people to be overly dramatic. And it's encouraging people who watch this to think, well, I got to go now. I got to go to the store. Oh, my God. What am I going to... And then you go there and you can't get a box of tissues. And forget, by the way, buying a bag of salt. I have a front walkway that turns into Lake Placid out front, okay? I'm ready to do a triple Lutz every time I go to the car.
That's really bad for your cement anyway. It eats right through the cement. It creates
not good.
potholes all over the place. They're bad.
Stuff is lame.
No.
And then Chuck would always get the Pet Safe salt. That stuff never worked. Pet Safe. And he's like, we should get boots for the dogs. Those dogs are going to be fine. As long as you don't keep them out all night, they'll be fine. Speaking of the dogs, I'm going to post on our Facebook yesterday was round 1 of Elf Off the Shelf, and today is round 2 of Elf Off the Shelf. Who will win the battle? Speaking of Battle of Princeton, who will win the Battle of the Elf? Jimmy or Andy? That's going to be on our Facebook page. All right, 855-40-LAURA. Do you agree with me that we have become wussified in certain parts of the country because of this dramatic, hyperbolic reporting on things called weather? And by the way, the global warming people have all, you don't hear from them much, right? They're like, well, they're the ones who are stocking up the most, the global warming people.
Climate change, Laura. Climate change.
Oh, like totally. It's like the climate is changing, and that's because of Donald Trump and the tweets he sent out, which are very inflammatory. When I say inflammatory, they are warming the planet, except when the planet is cooling, and then it gets cooler, and so it's really bad. And by the way, I know what a bomb cyclone is, and you don't. Let's take a break. Don't go away.
Look around, leaves the ground, and the sky is a hazy shade of winter.
This deep freeze has had a tight grip for several days now. Take a look. You can see the steam rising from Lake Michigan. In this cold, just a few minutes outside can be very dangerous.
Thanks to my wonderful sponsors and your support, I'm glad to say that we can provide this podcast at no cost to you at all. As a loyal listener of my program, please consider testing our sponsors because they're the ones who actually cover the cost to produce this daily show. So if you're a dog lover like I am, how about giving your dog, your best friend, a fresh, healthy, and nutritious diet? When dogs eat well, they live longer and happier lives. I'm here to tell you about NomNomNow.com, which cooks the world's best dog food. It's made fresh in the USA and delivered right to your door every week. Nom Nom Now's customized recipes cook fresh in our kitchen, delivering healthy nutrition you can actually see. Switch to Nom Nom Now and your dog will have more energy, a shinier, softer coat, and a longer, better life. Nom Nom Now really is the best food for your best friend. And right now you can save 50% on your first 2 orders of fresh, healthy dog food when you use my code Laura at NomNomNow.com. That's code Laura and save 50% on your first 2 orders. NomNom now.com. And code word LAURA.
Baby, tell me, how did you get so cold enough to chill my bones? It feels like
You know what I loved watching were the annual Hudson River swimmers. They actually did it. Now, what I don't understand is how is it that none of them die? I mean, as a heart attack,
From
just going in.
hypothermia or something, yeah.
No, they go in and go out, but they splash around for like 20 seconds and they come out. But can you imagine that? But I love all my friends in Minnesota are like, it's 25 below here. And this is just what we do. They go skating for 8 miles. My friends, the Wheatons, say, we're skating today. But the Norwegian, they have that Norwegian, Swedish, Northern European blood, and it doesn't get to them. Does not get to, it's cold. But I'm talking 80, 70-year-olds are out there, friends of mine, are out there skating and doing ice fishing. Ice fishing, you can have the hut and you have the campfire. But when they're skating, they're skating. That's amazing. You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show. We have a great show on tap tonight on the Ingraham Angle. Make sure to tune in. Oh, shucks. I forgot to post my Elf on the Shelf round 2 of the Battle of from the Elf, Battle of Elf. We were talking about the Battle of Princeton before, how it was really tough. In the olden days, Jay in Arizona on the wussification of the country because we are breathlessly reporting every iteration of something called winter. Jay.
Laura, I love your show. Well, I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and you know the temperatures get up to about 115 degrees in the summer. So I tell people, just adapt. Have you ever heard of going in and seeing a movie inside where there's nice air conditioning? And I'll go a step further. I'm a proud military veteran. I love this country immensely, and I will say this much. The condition that we have created in this country for millennials, Gen X's types, everything has been attacked. Everything is an extreme, everything's an attack toward a comment that you might make or anything. So there's nothing you can say that's not going to be overly
Well,
censored,
yeah, but Jay, but don't you find it's more than that? It's a sense of the world exists for you. And anytime you're inconvenienced, you're right, it's a personal attack on you. And you then have to emote about it. The emoters.
I think this is...
Everyone's emoting all the time. We don't care how you feel, really, frankly. Only your friends and family do. Yeah, you're cold. Guess what? That's called winter. Yeah, it freezes outside. Oh, really? You're kidding me. Oh, snow turns into ice when it gets warm, then freezes again. Wow. You need salt and sand to make sure you don't fall on your face. Don't let elderly people sit out in the cold. Don't leave your pets out to turn into petsicles. Okay? Yeah. Wow. Make sure the homeless have a place to go and are warm. Make sure you don't allow people to sit on the streets. That's why we don't bring in hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants over the years, millions, when we have homeless veterans freezing on the street during the winter. That's one reason, one of many, that we don't cater to illegal immigrants. Thank you very much. By the way, the Republicans are meeting, big White House meeting with the DACA people, and the list is not a list that makes me feel all warm and fuzzy, but I think the Trump administration might have some interesting tricks up its sleeve here. Here are the groups, the two groups involved. Well, the conservatives who believe the president's agenda really shouldn't be to cater to the dreamers. He wasn't elected to give amnesty to dreamers. He was elected to enforce the rule of law, make our country safer, America first, get our economy humming again, make sure we're safe and secure. He was not elected to help the dreamers. That's not why he was elected. But for some reason, Mitch McConnell has agreed to bring up a DACA vote by January 31st if the Democrats and Republicans can get together and get legislation out. Meanwhile, they haven't repealed Obamacare.
They haven't funded the government yet.
Right. No. So
on January 19th, the government funding.
So understand this, and I touched on this on the Ingraham angle last night at the end of the show. If you're even conceiving of doing any legalization, and I'm not talking citizenship. I would never give citizenship to people who are here illegally. No way. If you want to give them some type of legal status, but the idea that anyone illegally in the United States gets citizenship to me is crazy. But if you're going to go down that road, you got to do E-Verify. You have to do elimination of chain migration. Trump said he'll do that. Lottery gone. Visa lottery gone. You got to have the number of green cards and the wall. Nothing less. Cory Gardner. You got Cory Gardner. You got Jeff Flake, John McCain, Lindsey Graham, Durbin. When I hear Dick Durbin and Jeff Flake together in the same room, I think, number one, watch your wallet. Number two, watch your border. I'm very concerned about this. 855-40-LAURA. Congressman Matt Gaetz will join us. He's been hot and heavy on this Huma Abedin Clinton email investigation now that we learn more about the tranche of emails that were transferred to a Yahoo account where, of course, not secure. Confidential information, classified information on that, but she was allowed to skate. Let's keep up with the winter analogies. She was allowed to skate, not swim, because in the winter it's cold. Gaetz up next.
It's a beast. He's got fangs, razor-sharp ones, massive paws, killer claws for the feet.
Trump unleashed an attack against his perceived enemies in the United States that sounded like something that might come from an authoritarian leader. Not surprisingly, Trump's tweet about Huma Abedin appears to be a reaction to a Fox and Friends report.
This is what happens in authoritarian countries. The leader uses the criminal justice system to punish his political enemies.
You are listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. This is the tagline of the day, Trump's an authoritarian, because Donald Trump sent out a tweet urging his own Justice Department that he is the titular head of to do something. Now, you can argue both ways whether it's smart for Donald Trump to do that. If I were he, I wouldn't do that. I don't think that's particularly helpful to any future case. And in fact, it might make the Department of Justice less likely to do anything because it would look like they were just taking their marching orders from the president in a case that, has gotten obviously very political. So I'm not sure I would have done that if I were he. But he's frustrated. He's clearly frustrated at Jeff Sessions, Donald Trump. There is no doubt about it. Why did Huma Abedin get away with this? Why did Cheryl Mills, of course, Hillary Clinton herself, get away with what they did here? Not only destroying emails, but of course allowing sensitive and in some cases classified information to be left on a private server and vulnerable to international hacking. The Huma Abedin issue is very important. Of course, she was a top aide to Hillary, worked for the Clinton Foundation, had the dual roles of working as a consultant for Clinton and the Clinton Foundation at the same time. Oh, that's a nifty job. You can do both at the same time. Isn't that lovely? But the big story, of course, is that the Judicial Watch FOIA request, the Freedom of Information Act request, delivered the actual emails, some of them redacted, that were transferred to that private email, the Yahoo account. Now, she even did that after it was revealed that Yahoo had been hacked. Remember when hundreds of thousands of Yahoo accounts or more had actually been compromised because of a security breach? Yahoo is one of the worst email programs you could use, in my view, because they just have been hacked, huge hacks. Gmail remains pretty solid, but Yahoo has had problems. It didn't bother her at all. Joining us now, Congressman Matt Gaetz, Republican from the great state of Florida. He joins us now. Congressman, this story gets worse and worse and worse as time goes on, but you heard what the Democrats' response is going to be. They're going to turn it on Trump. He's an authoritarian. There's no real rule of law. It's ruled by Trump. What is your reaction, sir, and Happy New Year?
Happy New Year to you as well. And Laura, to me, it's noteworthy just how much of the news in this case has been breaking on your television show. I mean, the announcement of the investigation, the disclosure of different elements of bias with different members of the team that both investigated Hillary Clinton and then migrated over to the investigation of Donald Trump. So I would say, to everybody who wants to be up to date, make sure you're watching the Ingraham angle. But
awesome.
as to the claim of authoritarianism, what do Democrats think we get if we have a rule of law that applies in a special circumstance to people running for president of the United States? I mean, these aren't Republican claims. These are the actual emails where people in the FBI, notably Andrew McCabe, who's now announced his retirement after having to give sworn testimony, but saying that this would be an HQ special, a headquarters special, where the normal processes wouldn't be followed. To me, it's not authoritarian to want everyone to answer to the same justice system and to not have a special track of justice for people running for president of the United States whose husbands used to be president of the United States. So I think that's the real confusion with Democrats. They want special treatment. We just want the law to apply to everyone equally.
Congressman, we had a guest on the show last night, former prosecutor himself, who basically said that this has all been looked into. Scott Bolden, let's listen.
There are a lot of opinions as part of an investigation. There's one decision maker, whether it was Comey or whoever headed up the investigation.
Or Peter Strzok.
Listen, no, not at all. Don't go there.
That's a ghost of Christmas past, Peter Strzok.
Here's the deal. They can have their opinion. It doesn't mean that the case has to be reinvestigated, reprosecuted, or relooked at, because DOJ is not a political animal. It's an independent agency that stands for justice.
Your reaction?
The DOJ shouldn't be a political animal. Unfortunately, during the Obama administration, it was allowed to become a political animal, and you've got circumstances where the very people at the Department of Justice have been interwoven with the activities of the Democratic Party particularly in relation to a nexus to Russia. I mean, you've got Nellie Orr, the wife of Bruce Orr, working for the Fusion GPS company, not a company with 300 employees, just a small number of employees. She's hired to work with the Russians, and then these are the very people spitting out lies about the president. And Bruce Orr is one of the top officials at the Department of Justice. You know, you've got Bill Priestap, the very individual who told James Comey that there would be no disclosure to Congress of the dossier potential purchase by the FBI. And his wife was a $1,500 donor to the Hillary Clinton campaign. So we aspire to a world in which the Department of Justice is fair and equal and merely applies the facts and the law. That's not the Department of Justice we're getting, and it's why so many of us are frustrated with Jeff Sessions.
Let's talk about the president's tweets for a moment. I'm a big fan of the tweets. I think they dominate the news cycle. They drive the left absolutely batty. And I think most people just don't care. They're not getting up in the morning and go, oh, Donald Trump tweeted about North Korea. I just don't think they care. They know it's part of his approach to both put world leaders on notice and to, frankly, keep the media at bay on other issues and distract them. I think it's brilliant, and also some of them are really funny. But when he tweets about an ongoing Justice Department investigation or lack thereof, does that concern you at all, given the fact that a defense attorney could make a pretty decent argument that would taint any proceedings with ultimate bias?
I like the president's use of Twitter for the very reasons you described. As it relates to the specifics of an investigation, you know, I think that everyone should be cautious about what they say, you know, regarding an ongoing investigation. But here, you really have a Department of Justice where the inmates are running the asylum. The Attorney General is not in charge of the Department of Justice. He is a spectator over there. And, you know, the system works better, Laura, when the political appointees drive the message rather than having the political appointees subservient to the longtime, you know, plutocrats who are over there and I think right now sort of enjoying the fact that they're able to frustrate fact gathering. I mean, we are a Republican Congress, and we're about to have to hold members of a Republican administration in contempt of Congress at the Department of Justice and at the FBI for not turning over records and for not making witnesses available. These are dire times, and the only thing that's really going to solve this, Laura, is some real leadership at the Department of Justice, and to have Jeff Sessions, who I think was a fantastic senator. I think he does great things on immigration, but we need him to step up and seize control of these investigations, particularly as it relates to our treatment of Hillary Clinton as a consequence of her presidential candidacy.
Well, did they announce that they're going to re-examine, of course, their Uranium-1 deal, which I thought was significant?
That was interesting. So they never announced that, right? But that gets leaked on the same day Bruce Orr is giving testimony to the Senate and behind closed doors. So, like, I don't think that it's a coincidence that we happen to learn that the Uranium-1 investigation really is on at the same time that Bruce Orr is giving testimony. Here's the question we should ask, Laura. Who is the final decision maker on the Uranium-1 investigation? Because Jeff Sessions has given contradictory ansers. At one point,
not
he said,
be McCabe.
No, he could decide. Well, my concern is it's Rosenstein, because Rosenstein is the Attorney General upon all issues where Sessions has recused himself, and Sessions won't tell us whether his recusal covers
applies
the
to
Uranium-1
that
investigation because there's a nexus to the Clinton Foundation. You cannot investigate Uranium-1 without also investigating the Clinton Foundation.
Well, that's why the whole recusal thing was just ridiculous. And I think
and totally unwarranted. There's no legal requirement for him to recuse himself on anything. I think he got talked into it by Rosenstein and others who wanted the power.
A friend of mine last night said to me, Obama was protected by his people and a whip and a pen. Ask Menendez what it was like to defy Obama. And he said, follow Obamacare, it has to die, can't survive. He goes on and on about how, look, the Republicans are trying to get to the bottom of this issue with Hillary and Huma Abedin. But if you have an attorney general who's just not willing to play, you're not going to get any help from Rosenstein. You're not going to get help from him, and you're certainly not going to get help from Andrew McCabe. I love how he announces his retirement. Oh, that's convenient. I think we need to early retire him.
I really hope that we're able to make public the sworn testimony that Mr. McCabe gave to the Judiciary Committee. You know, frankly, Laura, it's my belief that all of these interviews should be in public, should be out in the open. We're at the point of these investigations where the American people need to know how their tax dollars were spent and who's connected to who. And I just don't think it's a coincidence that, you know, right after he gave testimony where I believe there were inconsistencies, he announces his departure from the FBI.
How would that occur? The release of closed-door testimony transcripts. Are transcripts made? You were there, right, when he was interviewed? Were you there?
Yes. I was there and drafted several of the questions, but I think that we could just have the Judiciary Committee release them. This was not a classified setting. One of the things that people like to do is they like to get you in a classified setting and then tell you stuff, and then you can't go and share the truth with the American people. This was a confidential setting where we can't get into the questions and answers, but if we released those transcripts, I think the American people would see where there are just these blatant inconsistencies, and it's obvious that people at the highest levels of our government were helping Hillary Clinton avoid criminal culpability because she was running for president. I mean, there wasn't some other reason. It was because she was a major presidential candidate, and people didn't want to see her have to face justice for the things that any other American would have consequences for if they had engaged in those acts.
So would it be the chairman of the House Intel Committee or the chairman of the Judiciary Committee?
The Judiciary Committee. It would be Chairman Goodlatte could release those records, and I have encouraged the chairman to hold future interviews in public. I think that there's nothing that we're learning that the American people don't have a right to know.
So what happens? The people like McCabe, they'll say, "Well, I'm not going to talk to you." Is that what they say? Unless it's closed door? Because we had people like what's his face over at the National Security Council, who was represented by that Jeannie Rhee. I'm blanking on his name, but the Obama National Security, Ben Rhodes. Yeah, he testified, or not testified. He was interviewed behind closed doors. I know.
Yeah, and you know we have those occur. You've heard in public setting where witnesses have said, "Well, I'd prefer to answer that."
I want to go to closed door
setting. Yeah, I want to go to closed door, and sometimes
let the
lines are a bit
That's
blurred. Yeah, sunshine is the best disinfectant for this. We've had enough closed door meetings, haven't we? I mean, we've already had the exoneration statement drafted behind closed doors. We've had all kinds of closed door decisions. How's that treated us? It's I think led the American people to really distrust some of the institutions that we've got to rely on in this country, and the only way we earn that trust back is full transparency.
What is this all about with Larry Tribe, the Harvard Law professor, old hack, who said Devin Nunes is headed to federal prison? He didn't expand on his specific legal reasoning, but he tweeted that out a few days ago. I saw it, and I blasted back at him. I said, legal experts. The same legal experts who have gotten issue after issue wrong over the past how many decades, but Larry Tribe saying that Nunes is headed to federal prison. Do you know what that's all about?
Well, it's ludicrous. Devin Nunes will be judged very well by history. Think about this, Laura. We would not even know about the Peter Strzok text messages talking about an insurance policy to undermine the duly elected president if Devin Nunes had not subpoenaed those records. Those weren't turned over to us, voluntarily. That wasn't like Mueller, being Mr. Clean, cleaning up his own shop. Those records were going to have to be turned over. He'd been asking for them since August, and we were only able to get that information very recently. And so I think the left is very concerned that Republicans like Devin Nunes are actually getting to the bottom of their own collusion with Russia, and they feel the heat.
Matt Gaetz, thank you so much, Congressman. We really, really appreciate your time. We'll see you on TV soon from the great state of Florida, which is even cold right now. And coming up, troubling information uncovered about grand jury members in the Mueller indictments, all coming up.
It is not fair when the top 0.1% today owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%.
Well, that was actually sound taken from the federal grand jury room where indictments were handed down of course, Paul Manafort and his associate. No, I'm just joking, but the reason we played that, kind of backed into it there, is that the Daily Mail reported late last night that a witness who testified before the federal grand jury that handed down the indictments said that the president can't get a fair shake after looking at the grand jurors. At least 2 of them had Bernie Sanders gear on. They found these jurors in central casting, or maybe at a Black Lives Matter rally in Berkeley. Bernie Sanders supporters gathered near City Hall on a day of 3 Democrat. Oh yeah, the person said of 20 jurors, 11 are African American. Well, wait, I think that's exaggerating on Twitter. I don't think they actually wore Bernie Sanders gear. Thank you very much. No. It looked like a Bernie Sanders rally. Well, just because you're getting 11 African Americans on the jury doesn't mean that they're all going to be anti-Trump. I wouldn't say that at all. The grand jury looked like a Bernie Sanders rally. Well, you're a witness before the grand jury. You want to make the grand jury's decision look less credible. So, of course, you're going to say that. Don't go away.
Your healthy radio addiction starts now.
Power to the people!
The Laura Ingraham Show.
I am a Mormon, and a Mormon just believes.
After much prayer and discussion with family and friends, I've decided to retire at the end of this term. Although I will miss serving you in the Senate, I look forward to spending more time with my family, especially my sweet wife Elaine, whose unwavering love and support made all of this possible.
Time to show the world what Elder Price is about and share the power inside.
Orrin Hatch, who has been a fixture in the U.S. Senate for 4 decades. Who's counting among friends? He came to the Ingraham Angle launch party. Let's talk about what's most important.
He did indeed.
Let me tell you what, he was great. He's been phenomenal on judges. He was terrific in the Justice Thomas confirmation hearing, the Senate Judiciary Committee in 1987. He's been around for a long, long time. And he's doing what Lamar Alexander should have done, and Thad Cochran, God bless him, who's still trying to find the bathroom in the Hart Senate office building. Been looking for a month. Yeah, that's brutal. They don't make depends that big.
Oh, you are too much.
Happy 2018.
Lovely, merciful 2018 here on the Laura Ingraham Show.
Okay, so Hatchling has said he's out. Okay,
Yes.
And most of us think it's time. However, it's the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. Or the devil you know versus the devil you know.
Mm.
Now, what am I talking about here? I'm talking about, well, some of you have rudely referred to me as Thurston Howell III of many residences. Yes, I have a car lift and a garage for 38 vehicles in La Jolla. However, and well, it is true that I could not... by any stretch, win any of my home states in 2012. I couldn't win Michigan. I couldn't win California. And by golly, I couldn't win New Hampshire even or Massachusetts. 4 homes. I've
So
lost
there's only
count.
one thing to do, Laura.
Go to another home in Utah.
Which is apparently established now.
I find it, so I've changed my Twitter domicile. And now I list Deer Valley, Utah as my domicile. And I find it very rude that people wouldn't be welcoming me back to the political fold after such a successful series of runs for higher office. But apparently Donald Trump is not happy about my perhaps jumping into this race, nor is he happy about my singing at all.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty above the fruited plain. America, God shed his grace on thee.
Stop. My goodness.
Well,
Jimmy
when-
and Annie are running for the doorway.
Well, when your most recent uplifting speeches was attacking the president viciously and calling him a lunatic, which sounds like something out of a CNN report, which we'll get to later.
A fraud, a phony.
A fraud, a phony.
His
No
campaign
good.
is worth as much as a degree from Trump University.
He gets a free ride to the White House, and all we get is a lousy hat.
Sounds good to me. I love my hat. By the way, the new ones, the ones that he distributed were actually made in the United States of America.
And it came with a rebate, apparently, because everybody's getting a big tax write-off.
How do those Romney hats sell? How are those doing on eBay? But Tag and all my other children are apparently not. They're Matthew, Tag. Is it Tag? Tag Romney, right?
Tag.
I don't think if you have I have a question. If you have a tooth off between the Romneys and the Kennedys, who would win? Just on smiles alone. You need no nightlights when you're with either family because they have the most beautiful dentine presence. Is that right, dentine? Presence. But Tag, they're all nice kids. I've got to say, I the Romneys, I really love them.
No, the Trumps don't. Trump
why
doesn't
is it
love
that
the
Donald?
Romney.
Remember when Trump interviewed him, just humiliated him,
Made him go to that restaurant.
Now, restaurant, they had that dinner for two, that uncomfortable.
Why don't we
moment.
we'll do an interview. Let's do it at a restaurant. I'll pick.
It'll be mine. No, they went to the Jockey Club, didn't
Right.
they? How did your date end?
And before he left,
I'm going to be at the Jockey Club with
Yeah.
Mitt Romney. Bring
Yeah.
the cameras. Click.
Tell Tillerson it's his. And so then they brought him to Bedminster and did that dog and pony that was humiliating.
Oh, no. Well, now there are reports that that's why it was done, to humiliate
Oh, no.
Romney after.
No, but Romney goes up there. Each of the contestants for The Apprentice or the whatever, they go up, they meet, and then it's like The Bachelor. Then they sent them down they should have interviewed each contestant for the cabinet.
On the way to the car.
In the vehicle, on the way out. I thought we really had a connection. I thought we had swept all of our ill will under the rug.
For 30
His
minutes.
personal qualities would mean that America would cease to be a shining city on a hill.
That's a shocker that he didn't win the presidency with that soaring
speech
rhetoric.
had about as much effect as flatulence. It
I mean,
had no
I'd take
impact at all.
flatulence over that.
Yeah, flatulence actually might have gotten
Actually,
more
I
of a
think
reaction.
it helped Trump to have Romney go after him. It just
did.
solidified the fact that he was an anti-establishment, smack him in the mouth type of brawler that the people wanted. I think Romney coming out against Trump helped Trump. How many of you disagree with me? 855-40-Laurent. Simple question on the table is, do you want Mitt Romney in the U.S. Senate?
As senator from Utah. The junior senator of Utah,
Wait.
the oldest ever.
He's 71, for God's sake.
He'll be the oldest junior senator ever.
Aren't there a
in the
lot
Senate.
of Utahns who would be younger and more conservative than Mitt Romney? I mean, look, if it's a choice between Romney and a Democrat, we don't want to go Alabama and Utah, believe me. And again, personally, I like Mitt Romney, and he did some great stuff, as I point out in Billionaire at the Barricades, which if you didn't read my Romney chapter and all about the 2012 campaign, you have to read that. Because you'll understand where Mitt Romney went right and where he lost his grip in 2012. That's all in the book, by the way. I got a lot of response when I was down in Florida, people who were buying the book. I did a book signing in Florida, down there south of Palm Beach. It was really fun. But a lot of people were reading it while they were on vacation, came up to me and said, I didn't realize this was in the book. And your breakfast with Richard Nixon. And, oh, my God, all the behind-the-scenes stuff about your memos to Romney. I didn't know any of that was in there. Well, yeah, it's in there. But Mitt Romney, he had a chance to really transform things, and he blew it. That's okay. People blow it. I've blown things. He blew it. Do you really? This is another question. You have like 40 grandkids. Don't you just want to spend time with them?
Not really. I don't like them
I
very
don't.
much, Laura.
It's good in theory, but after a few days in the ski lodge, you open a closet and there's a child there.
That's what weekends are for, Laura.
Yeah, and that's what
Holidays.
Ann is for, frankly.
We've already had our holiday.
Yeah, season's greetings, by the way.
Now, Donald Trump tells us that he is very, very smart. He is very, very not smart.
Oh, no.
That was James. You're killing me. That was one of my favorite lines, and I'd forgotten about that. He's very, very, by golly, but Jesus, not
Reagan-esque.
smart. Reagan-esque, yeah.
That is some of the worst speechifying.
No.
But remember, Trump Trump and Orrin Hatch had this very close
Yeah, they were
relationship.
close.
And when that tax bill passed, we were
that
there.
was practically a...
Oh, my
He,
Lord. He
Orrin-
canonized
Orrin-
Trump.
Orrin Hatch was practically jumping into the warm, moist hands of Donald Trump on that platform. Let's listen.
I have to say that this is one of the great privileges of my life to stand here on the White House lawn with the President of the United States, who I love and appreciate so much. All I can say is that God loves this country. We all know it. We wouldn't be where we are without him. And we love all of you. And we're going to keep fighting. And we're going to make this the greatest presidency that we've seen, not only in generations, but maybe ever.
Wow.
Over Washington and the Battle of Princeton that we talked about, which was today in 1777. But that wasn't that an intro? We thought something
what did
was
we
up.
say? The minute he
Raymond
said
and I were
that.
sitting there at the White House watching this. We were in attendance at the big event, the big pep rally. And we looked at each other, said, something's up here. Something was not adding up
The
about
bags
that.
are packed. Yeah, he
Our
was.
bags are packed. I'm ready to go. And Donald Trump apparently asked him to stay on.
Well, Donald Trump wanted him to do the
Orrin
Strom
Hatch-
Thurmond, just keep going on to hold the seat, because it's a reliable vote. Orrin Hatch is a reliable senator.
He's such a good man. I mean, I love Orrin.
And
Orrin Hatch is such a good man.
It blocks Romney from taking the seat, but now
I don't
with
want
Hatch
Romney.
leaving,
I don't want Romney. Tag, yes, but let's play tag and let's not play mitt. Catcher's mitt. No.
Get pictures of the roof of his car. See what's on
Remember
there.
Remus or Seamus or whatever his name was? Shame on him for. Yeah, Donnie shoots some lions every now and then, but he put that dog on the roof, and that would never forget that. People love their pets.
Very sad.
Petsicles in the cold.
Very
Can be very
sad.
bad.
Take a break. 855-40 Laura. Do you want Mitt Romney back?
Well,
Do
why
you
not,
miss
Laura?
Mitt?
Why not?
Well, I think it's.
Lovey was Gilligan. Don't go away.
Give me just one more last chance before you say we're through.
If we Republicans choose Donald Trump as our nominee, the prospects for a safe and prosperous future are greatly diminished.
Mitt Romney was a failed candidate. He was a terrible candidate. He choked.
It's hard for me to say I'm sorry.
Donald Trump says he admires Vladimir Putin. At the same time, he's called George W. Bush a liar. That is a twisted example of evil trumping good.
Mitt Romney is a stiff. Mitt Romney will not get elected. Mitt Romney failed twice. Nobody came out to vote for Mitt Romney, and I'm talking about Republicans.
Don't you miss the campaign? I'm sorry. When I hear that, I get verklempt.
You may not miss it for long. It could be back in Utah very soon. What will the president do?
Oh, no. He's not
Should he
running
support
campaign again.
Senator Romney?
Maybe he should support Tag. Tag versus Mitt. That sounds like a child's game. Tag versus Mitt. Could you play tag with a Mitt? I don't know, but you could have a...
We don't have Tag for you, but we do have Todd.
Todd in Michigan. Todd, I'm sorry, but this is like Back to the Future. I'm thinking Michael J. Fox is going to show up anytime, and you're going to have that DeLorean vehicle. What's going on here? Go ahead.
We don't want Mitt Romney in there. I wish he'd take a walk out in the woods with Hillary Clinton, what he needs to do. And what do these people think, that they're such intellects that the world can't function without their thoughts and stuff? And no, there's no way. He's another Lindsey Graham, McCain, same thing. He'll be voting against Trump all the time.
Yeah, I don't... On some issues, he was really good during the campaign in 2012. He was great on China. He was actually really good on immigration. Much better, frankly, than Orrin Hatch was. Remember, he said they have to self-deport? Everyone went nuts on Romney for saying that. Now, I don't know if he was just saying that to be more palatable to the base. Maybe he was. But he was good on that stuff. He was better than a lot of the Republicans. I supported him in 2012. Actually, I supported him in 2008. And I like him.
So where did the love go wrong? Where did you lose your affection?
When he trashed Trump. That's where it went wrong. That's where it really went wrong. I've always liked Romney. I had hot cocoa with him in his house 3 years ago.
Would you like marshmallows on that, Laura?
I would. Thank you. No, he could not have been a nicer,
He is a gracious
more
man.
gracious,
But not
generous.
when he gets on the stump and talks about Trump, apparently. Nasty.
Well, I think that the way we look at this race has to be, we have to look at the art of the possible. Just because you might not like Romney, well, maybe the people of Utah like Romney, and maybe that's who they want. And I just think you should be buyer beware. If you like Trump, and Utahns voted overwhelmingly for Trump, they didn't vote for McMuffin, contrary to what they said was going to happen. McMuffin wasn't the big vote getter out there. Okay? So I just think that in the end, we have to be both pragmatic and go in with our eyes wide open. That's what I think. And maybe it is Mitt Romney, and Donald Trump should just let the people of Utah decide. I think we should probably learn a lesson from Alabama, namely, better for the president to stay out of most primaries. He has enough on his plate with North Korea, Iran, the DACA cram down they're trying on him. He has the government funding. You got this. Clearly, Republicans are going to resist his trade agenda. You got a lot on your plate. Don't worry about. I wouldn't worry about Utah. I really wouldn't. And try to be friends with more people, but don't compromise your principles. That's my view. Do you think Seamus would survive a trip from Lake Winnipesaukee to Boston, Massachusetts in this temperature? If they put Seamus back on the car in the crate. It was a crate. There was plenty of ventilation. He was fine. But in these temperatures. By the way, any more news, James, on the bomb cyclone mixing with the vortex, the polar vortex? Any new news on that?
I haven't seen any news.
All right. Well,
we
have
really
some
cold.
old news. We have some old news. We got a lot of people who didn't listen first hour. But in case you missed it, it's cold this winter.
We want to give you an idea of just how cold it is outside. This is a hard-boiled egg. We left it out overnight, and take a listen and take a look at this. Can use it almost as a hammer. That's just how cold it is outside.
Yeah. Well, the egg gets cold. I thought they were going to put a regular egg and turn it into a hard-boiled egg. That would have been more interesting. Could you make eggsicles? Would that be that could be a tasty treat, refreshing yet very nutrition. You got a lot of nutrition in that. You got protein, you got the yolk, you can do the egsicle. We don't want petsicles. We do it at. Okay, by the way, on Facebook, you can see round 2 of the battle for the elf. Round 2, the battle for the elf, Jimmy versus Annie. Round 1 was yesterday. I think I didn't put it on the. I thought it put maybe a different. I thought I probably put round 1 on private Facebook. So sorry, you can't see round 1. But we've jumped right into round 2, and then the crime scene has been identified and captured on surveillance video and still shots. That's posted on Twitter. So you follow me on Facebook, you'll see the battle for the elf. The elf is off the shelf.
I'll say.
Elf is off the shelf. You need to see the crime scene for yourself on Twitter. But the video surveillance. Did you see my tweet on it, Raymond?
Yes, it's convincing. This is tragic video. Yes, I did see this. That apparently there's news. Jeff Sessions has announced he is investigating, but recusing himself from the investigation of what happened to the elf. Is that what's happened now?
Well, Jeff Sessions is not. He's complete. We're asking for full transparency.
Yeah, I asked for the deep state DOJ to investigate immediately.
Right.
And apparently,
Devin Nunes is a little busy, but I think this investigation by Mueller could be expanded into what happened with this lovely piece of holiday decor.
There's a missing ear involved. That's all
I don't think it's just a missing ear. It looks like MS-13 took that thing apart. So do you guys have that problem with toys that you get your animals? That my animals, no matter how tough, this indestructible toy, I don't care what it is, those dogs rip it to shreds in a matter of moments.
And we're just talking about the guests.
We're just talking about the people who come into the house.
Right. Hello there. Killers.
Yeah. You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show. 855-40-LAURA. Go to Facebook and go to Twitter. You'll see what I mean. Andy McCarthy, he's the must-read on all these issues involving Mueller coming up.
Hi, this is Ben Domenech, the host of the Federalist Radio Hour. We're a daily show coming to you 5 days a week from Washington, D.C., where we interview our nation's top journalists, politicians, authors, chefs, economists, entertainers, and more. If you're looking for a contrarian discussion on news, politics, or culture, give us a listen and subscribe at podcastone.com, the new Podcast One app, or at Apple Podcasts.
And now MSNBC's Daily Russian Report.
My colleagues and I have actually obtained and reviewed many of George Papadopoulos' emails with the campaign and with his Russian contacts. And we haven't found any evidence that he, at least in emails, did tell anybody in the campaign. Now, if he did, that's very significant, of course. And we can assume that Bob Mueller knows the answer to that.
You are listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. For the latest on all of this, we go to Andy McCarthy, who's written some of the best stuff for National Review as their contributing editor and former U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York. He joins us now. Andy, Happy New Year. And whoa, we seem to be learning more and more about now the Hillary emails and Huma Abedin, what she was sending, when, why. Some of it redacted, some not. But give us your latest take on where this is now. First, starting with the new information we've learned about Mr. Papadopoulos, that minor figure in the campaign, and how he could have triggered this whole investigation.
Well, thanks so much, Lauren. Happy New Year to you as well. I think what's happened here is the original collusion narrative that has been peddled by the Democrats, the New York Times, a lot of the media for a year now, is mired in at least controversy and quite likely scandal because it was targeted, or it was said to have been triggered by this guy Carter Page, who was a kind of tangential foreign policy advisor to the Trump campaign, that the FBI and the Justice Department got spun up about in the early summer of 2016, to the point that they went to the FISA court, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, the secret federal court for intelligence matters, and got permission, a warrant, to do surveillance on him, basically spying on the opposition campaign. And if you look at the whole span of information that we've gotten over time, the thing that had to have spun them up was the so-called Steele dossier, this compilation of reports by a former British intelligence officer, Christopher Steele, that we now know was bought and paid for by the Clinton campaign. So they have a problem with this. Number one, it looks like they didn't verify the allegations that they went to the court with. It looks very likely that those allegations are false with respect to Page. They alleged some of the most sensational, traitorous allegations that you can imagine of conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Putin regime, and they appear to have gone to the court with them. So you have the specter of political spying, the incumbent Democratic administration taking campaign opposition research from the Democratic campaign and going to a court to get spying authority against the opposition campaign. And I think that's unraveling on them, and that scandal part of it is about to explode on them. And since they're so invested in this collusion narrative, they now have to come up with a new origination story. So it's Papadopoulos to the rescue. I've been calling this the Times Russian reset. And it's, I think precisely what we saw over the weekend was, without coming out and saying it, what they basically said, you know, that Carter Page stuff we told you about back in April? Never mind. Now it's Papadopoulos who was supposedly the impetus for this whole thing. And the problem the Times has, and the problem everybody else peddling the story has, is as breathless as this report was over the weekend about Papadopoulos, they wrote an equally breathless account of Carter Page being the stimulus for the whole collusion investigation way back in April. So, I mean, they're kind of stuck with the fact that story one doesn't match up with the new story.
Andy, I want to ask you about something else, and it relates to the possibility that Donald Trump could declassify an enormous amount of information leading up to the Mueller investigation. And if you declassify, would find out a lot, not just about, what happened with Papadopoulos and so forth. Maybe you can't do it. But what about with, for instance, when Obama met with that Loretta Lynch, and more information on the phony Fusion GPS report on Trump and all, why not declassify more of these documents so the people can really have the benefit of some transparency here?
Yeah, Laura, you're playing my song. I've been arguing since the president came in, and since this became a controversy, that I don't understand why the administration doesn't just end it now by, for example, to answer your direct question, the president is in charge of classified information in the executive branch. He can declassify whatever he decides to declassify and make it public, or at least declassify it, or even if he doesn't declassify it, direct his Justice Department and the FBI to cooperate with the congressional investigators who have the clearance to look at this stuff. He could at a minimum do that, but he could certainly declassify it. And I don't understand why, for example, there hasn't been disclosure of the FISA application, the application for the warrant on this guy Carter Page back when, so that we could see exactly what of this dossier did the FBI and the Justice Department use. Did they verify it? And importantly, what did they tell the FISA court about the source of this information? And, I think it was on Sunday, Senator Graham had this interview on Fox News where he pretty strongly suggested that they used this information and didn't tell the FISA court where it came from. And if that happened, it's really scandalous. But you're quite right. I don't understand why they don't just declassify it. I think what's going on is Trump is afraid of being accused of
tampering,
meddling, or interfering, with Mueller's investigation, or else they'll say, he was reckless about, methods
national
and sources
security
of information, right?
Yeah, but and the same thing could be said. We asked Congressman Matt Gaetz this last hour. The same thing could be said of the House Judiciary Committee and the House Intel Committee. Unless it's a matter of national security, why are all these people testifying or giving interviews behind closed doors? I'd say just for the sake of transparency, get this stuff out there about Ben Rhodes, what he did, and McCabe and all these guys. I mean, why should they just say, I'll only talk if I talk behind closed doors? Well, what's the matter of national security being compromised here?
Yeah. And Laura, to make your point and to underscore it, today we have this op-ed in the New York Times from the two guys from Fusion GPS, right, Fritsch and Glenn Simpson, who are criticizing the Republicans for withholding information and not disclosing their testimony. And what I'd like to know about that is, well, then why don't they just tell us what their testimony was? People always say, I can't discuss this because it's under investigation, or I can't discuss this because it involves classified. No. It's the government officials who are bound by grand jury rules and classified information rules. If Fusion GPS did an investigation and they've got goo-gobs of information showing ties between Trump and Putin, there's nothing preventing them from using the space the New York Times gave them, and instead of caterwauling about who won't reveal their information, why don't they reveal their information? Just tell us what happened.
Yeah, there are curious motivations here. I actually see your point about why Trump might not want to, because that's the first thing they'll say is, you're just trying to undermine an ongoing investigation to save your own backside. That's what they'd say to Trump, correct?
Yeah, except if the shoe were on the other foot and if it was a Democrat investigation or a Democrat administration, what the media would then say, well, he's simply complying with congressional demand. So, I mean, that's the way the game gets played, right? When the Republicans are in power, and it's a Republican Congress and a Republican administration, it's all about obstruction. And when the Democrats are in, it's just rule of law and regular process.
No, I mean, I think we have a lot of Democrats still, Andy, who are saying that much of the stuff in the dossier is true. I've seen this on not just social media. I can't remember who said it the other day, but there was someone on CNN who said, well, what do you mean we don't know most of the stuff in the dossier is true? In fact, they say it is true.
Well, look, here's the game they play. And we saw this in the testimony from McCabe, the deputy FBI director, a couple of weeks ago. They have in the dossier something that says Carter Page went to Moscow, took a trip, met with 2 Kremlin officials, and had this quid pro quo arrangement with the Putin regime that they dropped sanctions if Trump got in, blah, blah, blah. And they asked the FBI, well, what did you do to corroborate that? And they said, well, we proved that he went to Russia. Well, everybody knows he went to Russia. He didn't make any secret that he went to Russia. So basically what they said was, because we were able to corroborate that he took the trip, we accepted what Steele said about everything that happened on the trip, which is not my idea of corroborating anything. And as far as whether it's verified or not, this is my simple question to all the people making this point about how we know a lot of the stuff is verified. James Comey, who, as we know, is no big fan of the Trump administration, testified before the Senate in June of 2017 that the dossier was salacious and unverified. That's a quote. So my point is, if it was unverified when he testified in June of 2017, how could it conceivably have been verified 9 months earlier in September of 2016 when they went to the FISA court to get a warrant?
Yeah, it became suddenly unverified and completely uncorroborated. And that's a weird way of the fact pattern working there.
Sure is.
Well, I think the issue of transparency goes right to the heart of what Trump campaigned on. He campaigned on returning more power to the people, more information about the government, the swamp, whatever you want to call it. For good or for ill, we pay for this, and these people work for the taxpayers. And I am not for keeping information from the people. I'm not saying I'm WikiLeaks or anything, but I do feel like when we're talking about these matters of such a controversy where the political stakes are so high, and there's so much rank speculation. I think you wrote about this many times, Andy, that we have these uncorroborated reports, unnamed sources, anonymous sources, when we actually know the facts. The facts are out there. Right. And wouldn't that be good for the Republic, for people to know the facts instead of just unnamed sources saying this or that or the other thing?
Yeah, I think absolutely it would, because when you're getting stuff from unnamed sources, they're always being very selective about what they tell you and what they withhold. So it's always much better to put it all out there. And I must say, having bbeen involved as a prosecutor in litigation where classified information comes up, there's a way to do this, and it's done. I don't want to say it all the time because these cases aren't that frequent, but it's done often enough that we know that there's a way that you can put this information out without compromising sources and methods of intelligence and give people a factual summary of what actually happened, which they should do.
Yeah, I think that, again, we'll see. We will learn eventually what really happened, but why wait 10 years after lives are destroyed or allegations that are untrue and unsubstantiated drag a politician down or even a president down? Speaking of that, did you happen to see the Larry Tribe tweet of 4 or 5 days ago where he said Devin Nunes is going to jail? I found that to be so irresponsible, even coming from Tribe.
Yeah, I'd love to know what that was about, but I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of irresponsible stuff that goes on in Twitter, and I think You need on Twitter something like they have on television. What do they call it? Like 7-second tape delay or whatever it is, where you can sort of, filter something before you put it out there and say, maybe this is not something I want to say. But there's a lot of that goes on Twitter, unfortunately.
Right, absolutely. And even Larry Tribe, who then it becomes legal expert of renown globally, says that Devin, that's how it then gets amplified. And that's just, that's
but
just...
Laura, you and I know that that's not the craziest thing he's ever said. So
no, that's a good point, Andy. I mean, you know what I think? Tribe is jealous of Dersh. Dershowitz is getting all the attention, right? And Larry Tribe's like, wait, what about me?
He's having his moment. That's right.
Yeah, he's tantrum. Tribe tantrum. Andy McCarthy, you must read everything he writes on the Justice Department, beyond Mueller and Hillary and Huma and all. Just everything related to the Justice Department and these big criminal matters, especially. Just invaluable writing and analysis. Andy McCarthy, hope you come on Fox with us soon. We really appreciate your time. Happy New Year. We'll take a break. 855-40-LAURA. The battle for the elf, documented on Facebook, and the crime scene designated on Twitter. Make sure to check it out.
But baby, it's cold outside. Got to go
But baby, it's cold outside.
This evening has
been hoping that you drop in.
Bomb cyclone coming. I'm stocking up on TV dinners. They still sell those TV dinners. I think I'm going to get one just for fun.
You could put it out on your balcony and then just bring it in when you're ready. Put it over the
you don't
candles.
need that's a good thing.
Sorry, just
we
throw it
don't need
outside.
refrigeration. This is where you put your beer outside. You got it all out there. Although, I'm not drinking.
You could use your beer as a sledgehammer. Tell me you're not giving up drinking.
No, I'm not drinking.
Come on.
Nope.
Nothing at all.
Nope.
No wine.
Nope.
No gin and tonic.
Nope.
Nothing.
Nope. Heavily cut back.
Can
on
someone
processed...
start the stopwatch, please?
Well, through Friday.
Okay. Do you get weekends off?
Monday through Friday.
Ah, okay.
During show days.
So boozy weekends.
No, it doesn't. You know me, I can't drink anymore. I get a headache. It's so boring. You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show. U.S. manufacturing accelerated to its best year since 2004. Before Trump, that was the last year a Republican won the presidency. Isn't that interesting?
Thanks for listening to the Laura Ingraham Show podcast. Download new episodes every week at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com.
Podcast One has new shows on our new app. Check out all the cool features to help you explore our exciting new programming, like America's Lakers podcast with Jay Moore, So Random with Corinne Olympios, Attack Each Day, The Harbaugh's podcast, Not Just Sports with Susie Schuster and Rich Eisen, and Sessions with Randy Jackson, as well as your old favorites like The Lady Gang, Steve Austin, Shaquille O'Neal, and Adam Carolla. Get the new Podcast One app in the App Store, Google Play, or podcastone.com.